Prepare to have your mind completely blown because everything you thought you knew about classic pickup trucks is a total lie. Forget the boring, identical metal boxes driving around today. Decades ago, automotive engineering was an absolutely lawless wasteland of bizarre ideas, terrifying physics, and spectacular, dangerous failures. Today, we expose the 10 most bizarre classic pickup trucks ever unleashed on the pavement. We are talking about dangerously unbalanced machines requiring massive steel counterweights, luxury cars violently chopped in half, and terrifying three-wheeled haulers that were essentially a death wish on the highway. You will not believe the sheer engineering insanity hiding at the #1 spot. Stick around until the very end and please smash that subscribe button. Kicking off our list at number 10 is the 1958 Chevrolet Apache Fleetside, a truck that signaled a massive shift in how Americans viewed utility vehicles. Before the late 50s, trucks were purely agricultural or industrial tools, built with simple, narrow cargo boxes and bulging rear fenders known as stepsides. But Chevrolet decided it was time to bring passenger car styling to the job site. They introduced the Fleetside, featuring smooth, slab-sided bed walls that integrated perfectly with the cab. To add to the flair, they slapped on a massive chrome-heavy front grille and dual-quad headlights. While it might look relatively normal to our modern eyes, back in 1958, this was a radical departure from the norm. It was a bold statement that a truck did not have to be ugly to be useful. Underneath the stylish exterior, it still possessed the rugged Task Force chassis and a reliable V8 engine, making it a highly capable worker. However, its heavy reliance on chrome and stylized body lines meant that owners were suddenly much more hesitant to toss heavy gravel or metal tools into the back, shifting the truck's primary purpose forever. What is truly shocking about the Apache Fleetside today is its meteoric rise in the collector car market. Back in 1958, you could drive one of these off the dealer lot for around $2,000, making it a very affordable tool for the working class. Today, because of its iconic quad headlight design and historical significance, a beautifully restored Apache will easily command over $60,000 at auction. If you think those quad headlights were a bold design choice, just wait until you see how Chevrolet tried to put sports car fiberglass on a pickup. Coming in at number 9 is the Chevrolet Cameo Carrier, introduced in 1955, which represents one of the most fascinating failed experiments in truck history. Chevrolet wanted a premium truck that looked as smooth as a Bel Air, but stamping entirely new steel bedsides for a low-production luxury truck was simply too expensive. Their bizarre solution: they took a standard narrow step-side steel cargo box and bolted sleek, stylish fiberglass panels onto the outside of it. It featured a beautifully flush exterior, passenger car hubcaps, and a gorgeous two-tone paint job for the era. Unfortunately, this brilliant styling exercise quickly ran into harsh reality when owners tried to use it as an actual truck. This was a classic failed experiment in utility. The exterior fiberglass panels were notoriously fragile. If you accidentally dropped a heavy toolbox over the side or clipped a wooden fence post on the farm, the beautiful fiberglass would completely shatter or crack, requiring specialized and very expensive body repairs. Furthermore, because the fiberglass was just a facade over a traditional narrow bed, you did not actually gain any extra cargo space despite the wide appearance. Because of its high initial price tag and its absolute lack of practical durability, the Cameo Carrier was swiftly discontinued after just a few years of limited production. However, this failure in the 1950s translates to massive price shocks today. Its extreme rarity and undeniable beauty have made it a holy grail for classic car collectors. While it originally cost around $2,000, finding a pristine Chevrolet Cameo today will easily drain over $70,000 from your bank account. Chevy was not the only one trying to make trucks fancy in weird ways. At number 8, we have the Dodge B-Series, affectionately known as the Pilot House, built between 1948 and 1953. In the post-war era, truck manufacturers were desperately looking for ways to make their vehicles safer and much easier to drive. Dodge's engineering team decided that the absolute biggest problem with trucks was a lack of visibility. Their solution was to completely redesign the cab, moving the front axle back and the engine forward, which allowed them to push the passenger cab higher and further up the chassis to give the driver a better vantage point. They then wrapped the entire cab in an enormous amount of glass, including massive rear quarter windows, creating what they heavily marketed as the pilot house cab for its airplane-like 360-degree visibility. While the visibility was undeniably fantastic, the design became a textbook failed experiment in automotive aesthetics. By raising the cab and making it so tall and upright, the truck looked incredibly awkward and very top-heavy compared to the sleek, lower-slung designs that were rapidly emerging from competitors like Ford and Chevrolet at the very same time. Drivers appreciated being able to see out of the massive windows, but buyers simply did not want to be seen driving something that looked so utterly disproportionate. The tall, boxy cab alienated a large portion of the consumer base. Ultimately, the pilot house lost the sales war, as form triumphed over pure function. Today, they remain a quirky piece of automotive history, starting to gain a cult following among vintage truck enthusiasts. But while Dodge was building literal glass houses on wheels, another company decided to chop a luxury car in half to create our next weird machine. Number 7 brings us to the luxurious and incredibly strange Hudson Big Boy, produced primarily from 1939 through 1947. Long before Chevrolet invented the El Camino or Ford brought us the Ranchero, Hudson decided to blend the comfort of a premium passenger car with the utility of a heavy pickup truck. They essentially took the front end of their luxurious Commodore sedan and grafted on a massive, heavy-duty 3/4-ton cargo bed. The result was a truck that featured gorgeous, aerodynamic Art Deco car styling up front, complete with a lavishly appointed interior. However, the Hudson Big Boy was a magnificent failed experiment in market placement. Hudson equipped the truck with an independent front suspension, an absolute rarity for work vehicles at the time, which gave it an incredibly smooth car-like ride. The problem was the target audience. Farmers and construction workers did not want to pay a premium for a luxury ride in fancy chrome. They wanted cheap, indestructible, solid axles. Conversely, the wealthy buyers who could afford a Hudson had absolutely no need for a massive cargo bed to haul dirty manure or heavy lumber. Because it failed to capture a significant audience, production numbers for the Hudson Big Boy were incredibly low, making it one of the rarest classic trucks in existence today. Prepare for a massive price shock. While it struggled to find buyers when it was brand new, classic car collectors today will fiercely bid well over $50,000 for a well-preserved or fully restored example of this luxurious oddity. Speaking of absolute luxury, what happens when you take the most ridiculous car styling trend of the 1950s and glue it onto a farm truck? Enter the Sweptside. Our number 6 spot goes to the absurd and glorious 1957 Dodge Sweptside, a vehicle that represents the absolute peak of automotive excess. During this era, America was utterly obsessed with the jet age and space exploration, which translated into cars with massive soaring tailfins. Dodge executives looked at their rather plain lineup of pickup trucks, looked at the wildly popular cars from Chevrolet and Ford, and made a desperate, bizarre decision. They took the massive, sweeping fiberglass tailfins straight off their two-door station wagons and literally bolted them onto a standard half-ton pickup truck bed. The result was a glorious failed experiment where form aggressively overtook function. The Sweptside looked like a futuristic spaceship from the rear and a boring tractor from the front. But those massive station wagon fins severely intruded on the interior cargo space, making the actual bed incredibly narrow and frustratingly impractical for anyone who actually needed to haul wide loads. It was a truck designed purely for show, complete with extravagant two-tone paint jobs, wide white wall tires, and heavy chrome trim. Be honest, would you drive a truck with massive tail fins today? Let me know in the comments. Unsurprisingly, the truck-buying public was not impressed. The Sweptside was expensive, impractical, and suffered from terrible sales, leading Dodge to pull the plug after just a few years of very limited production. But here is the ultimate price shock. Because it was such a sales disaster, very few survive today. A pristine Dodge Sweptside is now considered an automotive unicorn, frequently commanding eye-watering prices upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 at premium auctions. Tailfins are weird, but at least the engine was in the right place. Our next truck completely flipped the script. At number 5 is the incredibly sketchy 1961 Ford Econoline pickup, a vehicle that completely redefined the concept of weight distribution. Inspired by the strict need for maximum cargo space and a compact footprint, Ford utilized a cabover design. They pushed the driver and passenger all the way to the absolute front edge of the vehicle and shoved the engine directly between the seats inside the passenger cab. This layout created a massive, uninterrupted flatbed in the rear, perfect for hauling large items while keeping the truck's overall length surprisingly short and easy to park. However, this brilliant packaging led to a genuinely terrifying failed experiment in physics. Because the heavy engine, the transmission, and the passengers were all located entirely in front of the front axle, the rear end of the Econoline pickup was practically weightless. It was so completely unbalanced that during hard braking, especially when the bed was empty, the rear wheels would literally lift off the ground. Ford's official, historically documented solution was to bolt a massive 165-pound solid steel counterweight directly over the rear axle at the factory to prevent nose stands. Despite its dangerous handling quirks and the roaring engine cooking the passengers in the summer heat, the Econoline pickup survived its era as a niche work vehicle. The price shock here comes from modern hipster and surf culture. These bizarre, snub-nosed trucks have become retro-cool icons. What was once a cheap, terrifying work truck now regularly sells for $30,000 to $40,000 to enthusiasts who absolutely love their unique, boxy charm. Ford's cabover was sketchy, but the Germans took the rear-engine truck idea and made it an absolute global icon. Number 4 is the legendary Volkswagen Type 2 pickup, a vehicle that took standard American truck engineering and threw it entirely out the window. Based on the iconic VW microbus, this pickup featured a completely bizarre layout with an air-cooled flat-4 engine hidden entirely in the back, tucked neatly underneath the cargo bed. To strictly maximize utility, Volkswagen designed the truck with drop-down sides. The rear tailgate as well as both side panels of the bed could fold completely flat, turning the truck into a massive rolling flatbed table that was easy to load. While highly innovative, the Volkswagen Type 2 was a major failed experiment when it came to heavy-duty American expectations. The engine compartment underneath the bed meant the load floor was awkwardly high, and there was a secondary storage locker located between the axles known as the treasure chest. More importantly, it was dangerously slow. Producing barely 40 horsepower in early models, its top speed was a miserable 50 miles per hour. Loading the bed with any serious weight meant crawling up hills at a snail's pace, making it woefully inadequate compared to Detroit V8 trucks. Yet this underpowered rear-engine oddity has experienced the most insane price shock of all. Embraced by the counterculture movement of the 1960s, the Type 2 became an enduring icon of peace, love, and surfing. Today, a pristine early-generation Volkswagen pickup, particularly the rare double cab versions, will easily fetch anywhere from $50,000 to well over $100,000, proving that character often outvalues pure horsepower. Volkswagen hid the engine in the back, but America's most famous off-road brand decided to shove the driver completely over the front axle. At number 3, we introduce the mind-bending Jeep FC150, an acronym that stands for Forward Control. Introduced in 1956 and designed by the legendary industrial designer Brooks Stevens, the FC150 is arguably the strangest-looking four-wheel drive vehicle ever mass-produced. Jeep essentially took their standard, highly capable CJ5 off-road chassis and bolted a cab entirely over the engine, pushing the front steel bumper directly below the driver's feet. This allowed Jeep to offer a full-sized 6-foot cargo bed on a tiny, incredibly maneuverable 81-inch wheelbase, making it a mountain goat on rocky trails. However, the FC150 was a massive failed experiment in driver psychology and highway stability. From the driver's seat, there was absolutely no hood in front of you. You were staring straight down at the speeding pavement. When you hit the brakes, the visual sensation was utterly terrifying, as if you were about to pitch forward directly over the bumper and smash your face into the asphalt. Furthermore, its incredibly short wheelbase and narrow track width meant that the vehicle felt incredibly top-heavy and dangerously unstable at highway speeds, relegating it strictly to slow farm work. Because it was too weird and intimidating for the mainstream American truck buyer, the FC series never sold in massive numbers and was quietly discontinued. But today comes the inevitable price shock. Classic Jeep enthusiasts go absolutely crazy for these bizarre pug-nosed trucks. A well-restored Jeep FC 150 is incredibly rare today and will easily command $40,000 to $60,000 as collectors desperately hunt for this odd piece of history. Jeep's proportions were bizarre, but Chevrolet's next attempt at a rear-engine truck included a feature so weird, it is a miracle it was ever built. Our runner-up for the weirdest classic truck is the 1961 Corvair 95 Rampside, a vehicle that Chevrolet built to compete directly with the Volkswagen Type 2. Like the VW, the Rampside featured a rear-mounted, air-cooled flat-six engine tucked under the back of the bed. But Chevrolet engineers wanted to solve the issue of a high-load floor, so they created a wildly unique bi-level bed. The rear section over the engine was raised, but the middle section dropped down low. To maximize this, they cut a massive door into the side that folded down. While the built-in side ramp was an ingenious idea for rolling heavy appliances or motorcycles directly into the bed, the Corvair Rampside was a catastrophic failed experiment in overall utility. The bizarre bi-level floor made hauling standard building materials like rigid plywood, long metal pipes, or sheets of drywall incredibly frustrating, as the cargo would sit unevenly across the huge engine hump in the back. Furthermore, the handling of the rear-engine Corvair platform was notoriously tricky, making it deeply unpopular with traditional truck buyers who simply demanded flat, simple steel cargo boxes for real work. Despite being a commercial flop with a very short production run, the Rampside's sheer weirdness has made it highly collectible today. The price shock is absolutely real. While they were practically given away to scrapyards in the 1970s, a clean, functioning Rampside today will easily pull $30,000 to $50,000 from collectors who desperately want the ultimate tailgate party conversation piece. A side ramp is definitely crazy, but our final truck makes all of these look completely normal. It is tiny, it has exactly 3 wheels, and it barely qualifies as a truck. Taking the crown for the absolute most bizarre classic pickup truck you have never seen is the Daihatsu Midget MP5 from the late 1950s and 60s. This Japanese import is a micro truck that looks like it escaped from an amusement park ride. It features a tiny enclosed single-seat cabin, an incredibly small cargo bed, and exactly 3 wheels. Powered by a microscopic air-cooled engine that produced barely 12 horsepower, the Midget was intelligently designed to navigate the incredibly narrow, bomb-damaged alleyways and tight city streets of post-war Japan, where full-size trucks would physically get stuck. While brilliant for its home market, the Daihatsu Midget was a hilariously terrifying failed experiment when a few of them inevitably made their way over to the United States. Attempting to drive this 3-wheeled, ultra-lightweight, painfully slow micro-truck on wide, fast-paced American roads alongside massive V8 sedans and heavy-duty semi-trucks was essentially a total death wish. They possessed absolutely zero safety features, could be blown over by a strong gust of wind or a passing truck, and had a top speed of roughly 40 miles per hour, struggling to safely keep up with any modern traffic. Yet, prepare for the final, most absurd price shock. Because they are so incredibly rare in America, so unbelievably strange to look at, and so charmingly tiny, they have become massive hits in the micro-car collector community. Originally costing literally pennies to build as cheap disposable utility runabouts, a well-preserved Daihatsu Midget MP5 today can easily sell for $15,000 to $25,000. That is an absurd amount of money for what is essentially a street-legal 3-wheeled golf cart. It truly proves that weirdness sells. So there you have it. the 10 most bizarre classic pickup trucks to ever hit the American pavement. From massive station wagon tailfins and clever built-in side ramps to terrifying three-wheeled micro-haulers and dangerously unbalanced cabovers, automotive history is definitely much weirder than we ever imagined. Now it is your turn to join the conversation. If you were forced to daily drive one of these crazy machines on the highway today, which one are you picking? Let me know down in the comments. Subscribe and like for more awesome history.